the judges are preparing to deliver a key ruling that could redefine the William Ruto case. The judges will on Friday decide on whether or not to use recanted evidence in the case against Deputy President Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang. Ruto has opposed the use of that material, and as KTN's Linda Ogutu now tells us, that ruling will be widely watched in Africa and around the world.
The Friday ruling will perhaps be one of the most definitive moments in the Deputy President's bid to shake off the ICC ghosts that have followed him for more than 5 years. Only last week, President Uhuru Kenyatta led fellow African leaders in issuing a new threat to walk out of the Hague-based court if the case against Ruto was not terminated.
I therefore urge you to adopt the resolutions of the Ministerial Committee on ICC and include a new mandate to develop a roadmap for withdrawal from the Rome Statute as necessary. We must reaffirm that the global standard for impunity for heads of state should also apply to Africa and insist on the termination of the collapse cases against the Deputy President of Kenya.
Many violations of human rights, blatant ones. Blatant violations are perpetrated elsewhere, but nobody speaks about it. And therefore, there are double standards here.
Trial Chamber 5, which is hearing the case against Ruto and radio journalist Joshua Arap Sang, allowed the court's chief prosecutor Fatou Bensouda to use primary testimony of 5 witnesses who had recanted their evidence. The African Union was allowed to join defense teams of Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Arap Sang in an appeal seeking to overturn that decision. The AU, in its application, asked the judges to allow it to clarify on the applicability of the amended rule and its possibility to be unfavorable to the person being investigated, prosecuted, or convicted. It also wanted to submit views on the use of the now controversial Rule 68 retroactively. Both the AU and the defense teams argue that Rule 68 was adopted on condition that it would not be applied backwards.
Tell them that we are not ghosts, that we also belong to the world, and Africans shall no longer tolerate a position of slavery.
The prosecution and the victim's legal representative, Wilfred Nderuto, on the other hand, want the appeals chamber to uphold the trial chamber's decision. Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda explained to the judges that her witnesses were interfered with and forced to recant their evidence, therefore necessitating the use of recanted evidence in the quest for justice. Should the chamber dismiss application of Rule 68, which allows admission of prior recorded statements, the prosecution has expressed concerns that it will suffer a big blow in its efforts to tighten charges against Ruto and Sang. Ruto and Sang were last month in The Hague for hearing of oral submissions of their motions of no case to answer, which seek to terminate the case. On Friday, the 5-year case could take a whole new turn as the appeal judges make known their findings. Linda Ogutu, KTN News.
Definitely a much anticipated ruling that will be widely watched, especially on the continent. Now to another hot potato here in Kenya, and this one won't be caught, at least not yet. It is about the decision by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission to clear former Devolution Cabinet Secretary Waiguru of corruption allegations. Tonight, the former CS is facing fresh questions over the seemingly hurried manner in which the EACC gave her a clean bill of health. Rita Tinina reports on the latest twist in the NYS saga.
When the news came, her reaction was swift and elated.
I can only say I'm extremely grateful to God. Finally, the truth is out.
That after she was cleared of any wrongdoing by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission in the 791 million shillings come at the National Youth Service. In the letter, the EACC stated that investigations had not established any evidence to warrant an adverse recommendation against the former CS. Waiguru resigned on the 21st of November last year, citing doctors' advice and following mounting pressure to leave office. But the speed with which the anti-corruption watchdog has finalized her case seems to have rattled her critics.
The speed by which the anti-corruption authority is going around Waiguru's case is amazing. We have much older cases in this country which have been going on for over a year. They have not been finalized yet.
Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter, who moved an abortive impeachment motion against Waiguru, claims the commission did not exhaust all avenues to gather evidence.
If EACC were interested in evidence and witness statements, then they should have interrogated some of us to give who have evidence.
But it is not only the speed and quality of investigations that is raising eyebrows. The letter is written by the EACC Chief Executive Halake Wako, which for investigations is normal procedure. But the receiver is curious. The letter is addressed to the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Joseph Kinyua, at State House. Ordinarily, such a letter would be addressed to the Director of Public Prosecutions, and critics are now questioning what State House had to do with investigations by an independent commission.
Waiguru's case is being hastened so that she can find her way back into government. That's how I see it. And I know there's a slot that was specifically left out by His Excellency the President for Waiguru. When he was making appointments of CSS, you remember there was one slot, budget secretary, which is supposed to operate from the office of the President, not from Treasury.
Analysts say the Waiguru case in the list of investigations was an odd one, which was handled peculiarly. At one point, the EACC indicated she was a state witness who later turned to a suspect that saw detectives raid her Nairobi home. Just over 2 months later, the witness turned suspect is off the hook. And as questions abound as to why the EACC is reporting progress on the Waiguru case to State House, Nandi Hills MP Alfred Keter is questioning the integrity of the EACC and says he will petition the National Assembly to have all EACC commissioners vetted afresh.
Immediately when we resume tomorrow, I will petition Parliament so that we ensure that we have a clean EACC, an institution that can fight graft.
EACC commissioners were vetted in early December last year and were sworn in on the 18th of last month with an entry including the vetting of commission staff. Unlike his impeachment motion against Waiguru, which flopped, Keter will be hoping for better luck this time round if he pushes ahead with his petition to have all EACC commissioners vetted again as the spotlight turns on the anti-corruption watchdog again. Rita Tinina, KTN News.
So the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission says Anne Waiguru has no case whatsoever to answer, but critics are still asking questions, saying that it is all a plot to get her back onto the fold. On the big question tonight, we are asking you, should Anne Waiguru be reappointed to a government position? Tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no response to our SMS line 22155. You can join this conversation online on Twitter. The hashtag is KTN Prime. The handles at Ben_Kitili, at KTN News, and at KTN Kenya. Now, amid the controversy, the EACC still played host to a governor accused of corruption. Embattled Murang'a Governor Wa Iria, who appeared before the commission this afternoon, denied claims of harassing EACC officials in Gatanga. The officials are said to have been roughed up by Wa Iria's supporters as they conducted a search. Wa Iria, who was accompanied by his legal team, has previously been investigated and summoned by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over graft allegations. And to the coast now, to Malindi constituency, where the battle lines are now drawn for the March 7th by-election. Earlier today, ODM, Jubilee Alliance Party and the Labour Party of Kenya candidates were cleared by the IBC to contest in the parliamentary by-election. William Mutengo was declared the sole ODM candidate by the IBC, while LPK got a nod for its candidate Atas Sharif. JAP candidate Philip Charo was cleared at noon. He was accompanied by top Jubilee figures, including the National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale. Court Leader Raila Odinga campaigned in the area following the clearance of his party's candidate. The seat fell vacant after Dan Kazungu, an ODM MP, was nominated mining secretary by President Uhuru Kenyatta in November 2015.
Nyuma huko tuko na Mheshimiwa Moses Wetangula. Gavana Ali Hassan Joho. Mama Aisha Jumwa. Mheshimiwa Junet Mohamed. Tuko hapa na wanajeshi chungu mzima. ODM. CORD. 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 Wiper. Wiper.
So it is barely 4 weeks to the much-awaited March 7th parliamentary by-election in Malindi, and as we told you today, IBC did clear some of the candidates. Take a look at Malindi by electoral numbers. Let's take a look very quickly at the candidates who are clear today, as Francis Thomas did tell you in his story. William Mtengo is the ODM candidate. Philip Charo is the candidate for the Jubilee Alliance Party, JAP, and Atas Sharif of the Labour Party of Kenya will also be fighting it out for that parliamentary seat. Now, Malindi constituency is one of 7 constituencies in the county of Kilifi, and it has 5 wards. Jilore ward there's also Kakuyuni ward, there's Ganda ward in the outskirts of Malindi town, and there's Malindi town ward and Shella ward, 2 of the biggest constituencies in terms of registered number of voters, with almost 2/3 of registered voters in Malindi constituency. Now, let's take a look at how many registered voters are there. According to the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IBC, there were 55,856 registered voters in the 2013 general election, where Dan Kazungu was elected Member of Parliament for Malindi. That number, according to the IBC, did talk to them today, stands at that, still 55,856. Those are the registered registered voters in Malindi constituency in 100 polling stations across the constituency. Let's take a look at how the results were in 2013. Dan Kazungu of ODM won that particular seat with 16,679 votes. Lucas Maitha of the URP, the United Republican Party, was second in that race with 6,052 votes, and Fuad Twalib of Wiper was third in with 3,461. So that is how the battle looks like. That is what everybody needs to do to win. And one advantage maybe for the CORD coalition is that there is only the ODM candidate. Wiper is not fielding a candidate in this by-election. Let's take a look. Of course, as happened in 2015 in Kajiado Central by-election in Malindi again, the Opposition Coalition for Reforms and Democracy CORD is seeking to retain its seat after the appointment of ODM MP Dan Kazungu into the Jubilee cabinet. As on the other hand, Jubilee is trying to prove that it has made inroads in what is termed as basically an opposition stronghold. We shall be seeing how that plays out. Our coast team is keeping an eye on that. Now to a story that we highlighted to of a family in Thikatown, where a father and a daughter are said to have kicked the mother out of their home and got into a relationship. Earlier today, the mother stormed the house of the bizarre lovebirds, bringing the entire neighborhood into a standstill.
It had to be a forceful entry into this house, one that Virginia Wangari once called home. According to her, this gate stood between her and her 6-month-old child. Well, the gate, as well as her husband and second-born daughter. According to Wangari, her husband chased her away with allegations that she was involved in a cult and what he saw as bizarre worship. He allegedly then withheld their youngest child from her and went ahead to start treating their daughter as his wife. The mother of 11 is expecting another child and has made complaints about her withheld child to local police.
Sasa ningetaka serikali ingilie kati nipate watoto wangu, na ule msichana nimeachwa na hao watoto walipewa na baba yake. Ndio lalake na huyo mtoto kama nimefukiwa hiyo rumu miezi 3.
As heated as the situation was, it was hardly a warm welcome when the gates flung open. A big fight ensued between the family members.
akaacha mtoto hapa nyumbani, yeye akatoroka akaenda. Wakati alitoroka akaenda, sasa mimi wakati niliitwa kwa chifu ndio nilikuja na hawakunikoja hata kwa chifu pale police station Makogeni. Walienda wakaandikisha statement, chifu akaniambia wale walikuwa wakinitaka wameenda.
Akatuacha sisi. Huyo bibi yake
The spectacle attracted the attention of residents, many of whom condemned the alleged father-daughter relationship.
Ameambia babake hapa kama atapa mamake kama my love, wakaingia huko ndani. Hata leo nje tumpatie discipline. Sio si tabia. Analalaji na babake.
Sasa hapa akikaa hata anaweza kuta ni kifo.
The family was taken to the Makongeni police station in Thika for further interrogation after police stepped to calm the storm. Sharma Manyi, KTN News.
So, on the broadcast tonight, we are reporting the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has cleared Waiguru, former Devolution and Planning Secretary, of any wrongdoing of the corruption allegations against her, but critics are still asking questions. We are asking you on the big question, should Waiguru be reappointed to a government job? Very quickly, Saitoti Peter on Twitter says, why not? She has been cleared by the EACC of any wrongdoing. It's her constitutional right to be reappointed. Calvin on Twitter says, I think she should, because the fraud allegations are not substantial but lighter duties. And Joel Michaels asks, how do you reappoint somebody who stepped aside on medical grounds? You think Kenyans are fools? And lastly here, from Jimmy Kelly on Twitter says, no need, despite being cleared, there's proof that she's reluctant for that particular position. Keep the SMSs and the tweets coming. The hashtag is KTN Prime. You're watching KTN Prime. Many thanks for staying with us. We take a quick break. Don't go too far. We are coming back with Spotlight 2017. Just ahead, 1 week to go. High stakes as voter registration set to kick off. Welcome back now on to our weekly political segment, Spotlight 2017. This week we focus on the high stakes exercise of voter registration, which is set to begin a week from today. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is targeting some 4 million new voters ahead of the 2017 general election. KTN's Murimi Mwangi now reports on why it is no easy ride for the electoral body.
Tasked with the daunting task to register 4 million new voters in just 30 days, but faced with a 1.5 billion shillings budgetary shortfall, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is walking an extremely tight rope, barely 18 months to the 2017 general election.
If we're able to get more funding, we shall be able to expand the centers for voter registration. But because of time resource constraints, we are only able now to do it at the ward level.
Starting Monday next week, 2,878 voter registration clerks spread out across the 1,450 wards across the country and armed with 2 biometric voter registration kits in each ward will kick off the first phase of the voter registration exercise, during which the IEBC is casting out its net to register 4 million new voters. A move that has angered the opposition coalition CORD, which wanted IEBC to station a voter registration center in every polling station, a demand which IEBC says was in fact in its initial plan at an estimated cost of 2 billion shillings, but Treasury only availed 500 million shillings for the exercise, forcing the Commission to settle for the ward-based registration centers.
He must tell the country, as the chair of IEBC, what criteria he is using to distribute the 15,000 so kits he has against the huge polling stations across the country.
Biometric voter registration kits are enough. They are working very well. We are the ones we are using to register voters. In fact, we have got more than enough. We have got more than 15,000 machines, and we're only going to deploy about 3,000 or 4,000.
It means each ward working at an optimum of 70% wataandikisha watu chini ya 2,000 kwa mwezi mzima.
Prior to the 2013 general election, IEBC had hired 30,000 voter registration clerks spread across 25,000 voter registration centers, a move that saw the commission register 14 million voters in just 30 days ahead of the last general election. This time, however, IEBC says it will only use 3,000 BVR kits out of the 15,000 that are available, citing inadequate funds to hire more voter registration clerks.
Msimamo wa Wiper na CORD ni kwamba lazima wapeleke chombo cha kujiandikisha kama voter in every polling station in this country.
But even at the world level, I can assure you, if people are really mobilized and they come out, we can still get the numbers. Because even last year, within 30 days, we were able to get 40.3 million.
But going into the 2017 general election, even the Ministry of Interior is yet again on the receiving end over claims by the opposition that the Department of Registration of Persons is deliberately delaying the release of national identity cards for Kenyans assumed to be from court strongholds to bar them from participating in the voter registration exercise. But Interior PS Karanja Kebisho is shifting the blame to Kenyans, whom he says are not collecting their IDs in time, adding that nearly 400,000 new national identity cards still lie uncollected at various Huduma centers and county government offices across the country, most of them from the Rift Valley, Central and Nyanza regions.
Sasa enda Huduma Center utapata mtu ambaye anapeana vipande. Hakuna. Which means, as my brother Weta said, they have started the pre-rigging.
What are we rigging now before the election? So if you've already sensed defeat, just tell your supporters slowly, start to break down the, that they're going to lose.
IEBC is caught up in the political war of words, despite announcing plans to sanitize the next elections by investing in new technology, including what it calls a tamper-proof results transmission system to allow presiding officers at individual polling stations to scan the hard copy results and send a soft copy to the National Command Center, where it will then be uploaded on the IEBC website.
And I'm hoping that we shall be able to persuade Treasury and Parliamentary Committee on Budget to give us enough resources to be able to buy whatever we need to buy now, this year.
If it's about resources, Parliament is going to resume next week. The supplementary budget will be tabled by my office. We will make sure IEBC gets the amount of money they need, but in consultation with the National Treasury.
Now, faced with a budgetary constraint and integrity questions raised predominantly by the court coalition, the IEBC is no doubt walking a tightrope, even as it prepares to commence that voter registration exercise. But it is IEBC's strong statement that the Commission, now more than ever before, needs the support of all the political players, particularly on issues of voter mobilization, ahead of that exercise slated to start from next Monday. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
Catch Spotlight 2017 day every Monday during KTN Prime. Many thanks for staying with us on the program. We'll take another quick break. Don't go too far. After the break, KTN Zabi again will be bringing you the latest in the world of business. Stay with us.
And a very good evening and welcome to KTN Business News on this Monday. My name is Abi Agina. The Competition Authority of Kenya has commissioned a second audit into how banks price their products. The move comes barely a year after the competition watchdog carried out an audit on banking sector structure, which found that it supported competition. The fresh audit could make banks more accountable to customers and possibly unearth restrictions that have previously hindered choice. KTN's Michael Karanja kicks off our bulletin.
The relationship between customers and their banks has for long been a rather cold one. Customers have in the past viewed banks with suspicion as to whether they are provided with adequate information to make them make the best choice. Through the audit, the Competition Authority plans to investigate the industry, which has for years been accused of exhibiting cartel-like behaviors at the expense of customers. The Competition Authority hopes to look into banks' disclosures to customers and consumer protection issues with a view of eliminating possible restrictions of customer choice. Banks have increasingly come under scrutiny from the central bank for high cost of loans that have slowed down the growth of the industry. CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge, in his last address, questioned the rise of interest rates to a weighted average of 17.4%. The competition watchdog will also be looking into whether there is information lopsidedness that disadvantages consumers, whilst also checking if banks disclose all the facts needed on specific products and services. The new probe is the second phase of ongoing inquiry into possible anti-competition practices in the banking industry, which has long been accused of colluding to high cost of loans. The Competition Authority will also be taking a keen interest in credit reference bureaus to find out if there exist disparate treatments that gives them anti-competitive advantages and inhibits consumers' ability to take advantage of their own data for financial access. The audit will also check if banks place hurdles for customers who want to migrate from one institution to another and document costs involved while users switch providers. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
Well, of course, that's a story a lot of Kenyans will be following, bearing in mind that the cost of credit has been not that well priced. And on average, you could see interest rates at about 17.4%. Moving on to some news about the Rift Valley Railways, Isaiah Otieno Okoth has been appointed the new Group Chief Executive of Rift Valley Railways, taking over from Carlos D. and Andre. Currently General Electric's General Manager in charge of healthcare, Okoth will take up full responsibility at RVR in April, but is expected to steer the transition process from the start of March. The railway operator has increasingly come under pressure from both the Ugandan and Kenyan governments to increase train cargo. Last year, Kenya and Uganda issued fresh terms to RVR that required the rail operator to improve its performance within 9 months, failure to which its contract would be cancelled. Commenting on the appointment, RVR Chairman Titus Naikuni said Okoth brings to the board the necessary leadership and focus necessary to turn around the company. RVR is currently at the midpoint of a 25 billion shillings capital expenditure program to revitalize the railway. The company is purchasing 20 new locomotives, 480 wagons, and is also rehabilitating the railway network to give a competitive edge. Kenya is urged to generate decent jobs, promote conducive business environments, and promote entrepreneurship in a bid to transition the country from an informal economy to a formal economy. Despite the slight increase of Kenya's productivity, the Federation of Kenya Employers seeks the government support to curb corruption, which is hoped will accelerate productivity and competitiveness. According to the Secretary General of the International Organization of Employers, Linda Kromjong, no country can move to the next level without addressing the issue of informality.
Urge Kenyan companies to consider joining this network to share their experiences with and to learn from other global companies. You need to work with governments to pursue migration policies that facilitate the free movement of skills across the region. Taking Africa to the next level means that we advocate as business leaders for more open markets, regional economic integration, and export diversification through value addition. Africa has an excellent opportunity now to move to the next level of value addition.
Interesting sentiments there on value addition. Analysts have decried the laxity by the country's anti-money laundering unit to fight graft. Speaking to KTN's Joy Doreen Bira, economist Karithi Murimi stressed the urgent need to reverse the negative impact of corruption on the country's economy by ensuring good governance, accountability and transparency in the procurement sector.
Wajiko identified a value called transparency. Wajiko identified a value called accountability. It is a shame that we are in 2016, which means 6 years after the new constitution. And those simple ones, accountability, transparency, seem to be the ones giving us a major problem. Because at this point in time, I would be expecting the anti-money laundering unit, I would be expecting the bank fraud investigation unit to tell us where is this 200 million? Which accounts did it transfer through? Because I want to imagine if you give $2 million to whoever you give,
Yes.
that money somehow must have entered the system of money. And that system is what the banking fraud and all those activities are meant to manage.
So
we have agreements with FBI. I would want to know, have we invoked those agreements and tracked that system of FBI relationship to tell them, yes, can you help us on this? Because if it's $2 million the way we are being told, the American government would also be very keen to know how their $2 million is moving up and down.
Of course, you can catch that full interview on our website, www.standardmedia.co.ke. Now to another interesting story. Do you have some cash that was left as an inheritance to you? Well, you can now start withdrawing billions held by the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority following Parliament's passage of regulations guiding the payout. So far, at least over 6 billion shillings is being held by the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority from companies holding idle resources, but has not made any payments to claimants due to lack of regulations. Over 1,700 people have lodged demands for 42 million shillings with the authority, and the number is expected to increase as actual payments begin.
Forms that people can fill in when they therefore would want to claim what is rightfully theirs. The other thing that also the regulation does is that it gives a buffer to the authority, because we have an indemnity form. Once you've been given your money as Abi Agina, you sign an indemnity form indemnifying the authority or absolving it from blame, unless you have more assets coming in the future.
Vincent Kimasop there, the outgoing chairman of Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, giving you the green light that in case you have some money that is being held up somewhere, it is time now to go for it as time still stands. Well, I want to leave you with the day's financial report. With the shilling trading at 102.03, some stability coming through for the shilling. My name is Abi Agina. Let's do this tomorrow, same time, same place. Coming up next is the sports news.
Well, a very good evening and a warm welcome to tonight's edition of KTN Sports. My name is Lynn Washira, and we kick off the bulletin in matters athletics, where 2014 Commonwealth Games champion Mercy Cherono is ready to put her 2015 disappointment behind and focus on the 2016 season. Cherono's 2015 season was hampered by injuries, although her road to recovery is now complete in good time to get ready for the Rio Olympics. 2014 Commonwealth Games champion Mercy Cherono goes about her intensive evening workout at the Moi University Annex campus track in Eldoret. Determination and focus written all over her face. She's a girl on mission.
This year we have started so well, and we are keeping moving, training so hard in focus for the next season.
Cherono is keen on moving on from a disastrous 2015 season that was marred by injuries, which forced her to delay her 2015 training program.
For me, making the World Championship last year was a big achievement for me, because it was like I trained only 1 month and then took trials for World Championship, and I made it. So it was a big challenge, even though I had a lot of challenges for training and injuries.
The 2010 Junior World Cross Country champion finished a distant 5th in the 5,000 meters race at the World Athletics Championships in Beijing, China last year. The 2016 season, however, already seems bright. Cherono is injury-free and has already kicked off the season with 2 cross-country races in Spain and Italy.
Cross-country is just only for long races, like for a few events, and also for its favor because it's heavy endurance, and when it comes to the track season, it will help because of we'll only work for a few improvements.
With an Olympic Games ticket at stake, Cherono continues to find a balance between the 1,500 meters and the 5,000 meters race, although she admits her focus will this year be in the longer race. And while the 2014 Kenya National Rally champion Baldev Chaga is promising to get back to his best season after a frustrating 2015 season, Chaga, who failed to defend his title, hopes to push his title quest both in the Classic Rally and the National Rally from the first leg. Robinson Okenya spoke to him and files the following report.
Baldev Chaga was widely expected to rule the rally scenes in 2015 after winning back-to-back titles in 2013 and 2014. His season, however, did not go according to script, as the experienced driver found it difficult to keep up to pace with some of the drivers.
There's a lot of luck, there's a lot of things like that. So things really didn't work in our favor, all in all, for 2015. So we still tried hard, still had decent positions in whichever rallies we finished. But
Chaga, who retired from 2 rallies in 2015 and failed to compete in the Kajiado Rally, fields new drivers who took part in the 2015 National Rally edition, made the rally more competitive, pointing out Finnish driver Tapio Luukkanen among those who pushed Kenyan drivers to their limits.
Very welcoming to see international drivers like Tapio come in, and the pace that he set up was really amazing and fantastic. It really has made everyone pull up their socks. It has made everyone drive harder. Very good. You can't just keep, even being an athlete or whatever, if you keep running alone and you keep winning, you don't know how good you are until somebody comes and beats you.
The veteran rally driver has upgraded his Mitsubishi Evolution 10 to R4 status with the hope of regaining the national rally title he last won in 2014.
Come to a point in my career where we have to do the best we can. It's no more just all about fun. We have to go and do the best we can, and which means win the championship, and it's always our intention and our only intention.
The two-time Motorsport Personality of the Year also believes his Cabra's teammates Onka Rai and Tejveer Rai will be worth watching out in this year's championship. The first edition in the Kenya National Rally will take place on the 28th of February. Robinson Okenya, KTN Sports.
And well, shifting gears from rally to some rugby news now. Of course, several matches were lined up across the country in the ongoing Kenya Cup, that is the Rugby 15s League. Of course, let's have a look at how the standings look after the round of 10. We have, of course, Impala there on top of the group, tied at 41 points with Kenya Harlequins. We have defending champions KCB, of course, climbing up to the 3rd position after that thrashing over Thika United in Nakuru. We have Homeboys and Leos, of course, are coming at position 4 and 5th, respectively. Do remember that these two teams have a match at hand, and the match between Homeboys and Strathmore will be played this Wednesday. At the bottom side of the table, we have Western Bulls, of course, there with 20 points. We have Black Blood there with 19 points. We have Mean Machine, of course, that is the Nairobi University Mean Machine at 5 points. We have Thika at 1 point and Sharks at 0 points. Of course, Thika RFC and Sharks have not been able to register any win this season. And that's how things look at the top 5 and the bottom 5 of the Kenya Cup League. And that's how we end up tonight's bulletin. Of course, I'm Wa Iria, but do remember to join me tomorrow for another comprehensive edition of KTN Sports. Do have a very lovely night and keep it KTN News.
So on the broadcast, we did report that former Devolution and Planning Cabinet Secretary Waiguru has been cleared of the corruption allegations by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, but still there are questions over the seemingly hurried manner in which that clearance was done. On the big question tonight, we're asking, should Waiguru be reappointed to a government job? To some of your responses, and Isaac Son on Twitter says, of course, Waiguru was delivering even more than other cabinet secretaries. It was only Alfred Keter was taking advantage of her. Benedict Otieno Alfred says she asked for light duties, let her be given. She's worked hard for it. And another one here from Mekenye Hesbon, who says no, she must first explain the questionable expenditure of 800 million. After all, must she be in the government? Mutuku Fred says, why reappoint Waiguru back into government when she wants lighter duties? Let her rest. Kennedy Nyoli says, I think it's high time we start having confidence in our institutions. Sabato Faustino says, that would be another fire to rekindle. What about Ngilu and the rest? Waiguru should just go home. Kenwala Street, she should have been reappointed like yesterday. With what she did with Huduma centers, I could vote her president. Andrew Chiko Wanguchi says, do we have poverty of Kenyans qualified for government jobs? Waiguru does not deserve it. Migosi Bill says no, we have enough educated Kenyans who can do the job. We're still suspicious of how she has been cleared. And finally, yes, those are some of your views on this big question discussion. Many thanks for texting in and tweeting for watching KTN Prime. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.